Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you guys about how Warlocks feel in Torghast at this point on Alpha. Now, at this point, we have gotten through pretty much all the demo testing, the AF testing, and Destro testing that I wanted to get done on stream in Torghast. We were able to clear basically 1 through 72, which is the current and final level as Demonology. We were able to do some levels starting at 25, which is pretty challenging now due to scaling and things on Alpha, as Destro and Affliction, so I think at this point I have a pretty good idea of how things are for each spec for Warlocks in Torghast. Now I'm looking to start this video off by talking about certain Anima Abilities, which are abilities you acquire in Torghast that modify the way your class spec plays as a whole. Some of them are pretty overpowered, especially with other talents like Demonic Consumption, Grimoire Supremacy, things of the sort. So I want to get those out of the way early on, and then we'll look at how each spec sort of functions and plays in Torghast as a whole. Quick reminder that I do indeed stream 5 to 6 days a week on Twitch. All my week auras, profiles, add-ons are there available for you for free if you want to swing by and grab them or watch any bit of Shadowlands Alpha that I will be streaming. I will be streaming all the way through Alpha into Beta, raid testing, and up to eventual Shadowlands launch, and obviously live when it launches. So feel free to swing by and grab any of those if you like. Drop a follow while you're there to know when I go live. So let's get right into this video and talk more about Torghast, because honestly, I have been having an absolute blast. Now, the first anima trait I want to talk to you guys about is called Dark Whisper Signet. This does indeed stack, and it says summon Demonic Tyrant summons 1 additional demon. That demon is indeed a Tyrant. The same goes for your Infernal as Destruction and your Dark Lair as Affliction. The really interesting thing here is that for Demonic Tyrants, every single one is affected by Demonic Consumption. Every single one gets the bonus damage amp based off how many amps you consume. When it comes to Destruction, you do get multiple Infernals. You do get the extra shard generation. There's no weird interaction with Grimoire of Supremacy, though. You still get 2 stacks of Supremacy for 2 shards spent off each Chaos Bolt for each Infernal active. For Affliction, from what I've seen, you get the initial dot extension from your 1 Dark Lair when you cast it, but the extra Dark Lairs don't extend further, which makes sense, but you do get that extra eye beam damage. So seeing as how Demonology has a 1.5-minute profile, remember we are on Alpha now, so there's no more 1-minute Tyrant builds or 2-minute Infernals, 2-minute Dark Lairs. It offers an exceptional damage profile. It gives you an extreme amount of burst damage on a 1.5-minute CD as Demonology, which you can use to burn down elites, mobs, a lot in Visions, or excuse me, not in Visions, in Torghast. And in the initial levels here, this is like level 13, I believe. Yeah, this is like the middle difficulty currently on Alpha. But in the higher ones, when you start at level 25 with 0 anima traits, I guess 1 going in, it's exceptionally powerful, having that 1 minute damage profile compared to Demonology with a 3-minute profile, and Affliction also with a 3-minute ramping profile that your Dark Lair is tied to. Now, I do want to note that this trait does indeed stack. It sort of caps at 4 total Tyrants, so 3 from the trait plus the 1 that you summon for Demonology. Due to how totem tracking and things work, you can see here I have 2 Dark Lairs active under my character panel. You can cap out at 4 there. If I have 4 Tyrants active, 3 extra ones from summoning 1 here, and I cast Call Dreadstalkers, it despawns 2 of my Tyrants to replace it with Dreadstalkers. It's some sort of weird, archaic totem tracking system they used for Demonology early on in BFA Alpha Beta. For the most part, it's sort of been improved upon live for current live servers. There are some weird times where you get overlaps like that. I imagine this will be fixed whenever Torghast goes live for Shadowlands, but I can say for Destruction, I've seen 5 Infernals. I've seen 6 Infernals on stream. And for Affliction, I don't play AF very much in Torghast, but I have seen multiple Dark Lairs as well. So it should essentially be giving you as many Dark Lairs, Infernals, or Tyrants as you can get whenever Torghast goes live. Now, the second ability that I want to talk to you about here is pretty interesting how it works with even the previous ability. It's called Hellfire Pact, and it basically increases the damage your summoned demons deal by 25%. and this does stack. In our run through Torghast at max level being 72, we had 10 stacks of this. Our demons were dealing 250% increased damage. So once again, this does favor Demonology's damage profile, with there being a 1.5-minute Tyrant versus 3-minute Infernals, 3-minute Dark Layers. But this also, from what I can see, does affect our Wild Imps damage, does affect our Call of Dreadstalkers damage, and it obviously affects our summon pet, being our Voidwalker, Imp, Succubus, Fellhunter, or Felguard. Seeing as how Demonic Strength, Fellstorm, and just our Felguard dealing more damage is all tied into Demonology, this trait greatly favors, in my opinion, greatly favors Demonology compared to Destruction or Affliction. Now, there comes a certain point when you have 5 and 6 Infernals down, multiple Dark Layers, multiple Tyrants, things just die. They just fall over in a matter of seconds. In that 25 to 72 run we did as Demonology on stream, which in case you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to that in the actual description of this video. Bosses were dying in a matter of seconds. We were having an over-under debate if they were going to last more than 7 seconds. At a certain point, the damage just scales to an extreme amount. Now, obviously, I think these bosses will be tuned to be a bit harder later on. Mobs' health will probably be increased, and the actual bonus damage you get from these traits might be reduced. They might not stack 10 anymore. They probably go past that. We just finished the actual Torghast level at that point. But this ability is exceptionally powerful as well. It's one that I sort of look for a little later on. If it's the first ability I get, it's strong, it's relevant, but there are a few other ones that I'd like to see a bit more than this. But when you progress through those later levels and are looking for those damage amps to beat those bosses, this is the one that I want to see, especially for Demonology. This is a massive increase to your damage as Demonology. The third ability I want to talk to you about here, and arguably the hardest to acquire out of all three of these due to the rarity of it, is called Soul Platter. It says the duration of your summoned Demonic Tyrant or Infernal or Dark Lair is increased by 100%, but has a 50% chance to consume one of the freed souls you have when summoned. If a soul is consumed, the Demonic Tyrant or Infernal or Dark Lair's damage is also increased by 100%. Now, you might be thinking, this can't work with having 3, 4, 5 Tyrants, Infernals, Dark Layers down. This does work with that. You might be thinking, this can't work with multiple Tyrants, multiple Infernals, multiple Dark Layers with the Hellfire Pact damage amp. They all work together. And with Demonology, you have Soul Platter. You have 5 Tyrants. You have a 250% or so damage amp with multiple Hellfire Pacts. All those Tyrants are also affected by demonic consumption. The damage your Tyrants deal with Soul Platter, multiple Tyrants, and larger stacks of Hellfire Pact is utterly absurd. You will be one-shotting, two-shotting. Let me rephrase that. Your Tyrants will be one-shotting, two-shotting, three-shotting these bosses. There are certain points you can just go in and pull the entire room. If you have your Infernals, there's currently a bug on Alpha right now in Torghast as well, where even though your Infernals should last a minute, with the Soul Platter extension, they don't. They still only last 30 seconds. But regardless, you can still run into a room and just pull the entire room. Drop your Infernals. Bring your Tyrants out. Demonic Strength. Destroy everything. Soul Platter is the hardest trait out of the 3 we've talked about so far to acquire due to the rarity of it. But I have seen it as the first trait. We just saw it right here. As the first trait heading into a run. If you can roll this, this is a massive plus for whatever spec you're playing DPS-wise, trying to grind through the harder levels early on with very few anima powers. Soul Platter is one of the strongest traits we have in Torghast. Now, in case you don't know, Corruption has gone baseline for every single spec in Shadowlands Alpha. Affliction still has Corruption instant cast. Demonology and Destruction have a 2-second cast, which is modified by haste. So this trait here, Dissolving Vial, which makes Corruption a 60-second slow. If any of you guys played in Legion, the Corruption slow ring, this is essentially that same effect. It might be a lot more relevant for Affliction because you can apply it instantly and spread it with Seed of Corruption, but there is still some relevance with Destro and Demo here in a sense. This trait is pretty powerful depending on what you're doing and I guess what level you're starting off on as well. The higher levels going in on Shadowlands Alpha with no anima traits, It's very hard progressing through the initial mobs, especially depending on the RNG you get if it's a harder level than others. Being able to slow mobs, kite mobs around, makes getting through certain packs that are challenging much, much easier. Even in the later levels as Demonology, I did end up picking up this trait, and there were certain packs that I hard cast Corruption on, just slowing a mob, using a gateway, using a circle to get away from it, while killing the rest of the pack. And when that pack was dead, eventually that mob got to me, and then I could kill it. So yes, we're not playing with absolute corruption as Demonology or Destruction, but still, this trait does hold a lot of merit. It's relevant, and it's a subtle sleeper trait, I feel, in the early levels if you can pick it and acquire it, and you aren't losing much power compared to the other trait that's available to you. Now, currently on Alpha, there's an extreme amount of RNG in what 2 traits you get to choose first off the first Anima Orb here. This trait here, Zolval's Resolution, is probably one of the most powerful traits you can see on your first Anima Orb heading into any level of Torghast. Unending Resolve now lasts forever. It is straight up a passive 40% DR on your character. You'll see when I pop it here, it's an 8-day duration. It essentially lasts forever. An interesting thing here, if you die in Torghast, you have to cast your Unending Resolve again to sort of put the buff back up, but it indeed does last forever. Even the visual lasts forever. There's no catches to this. It lasts the entire time you're in Torghast. We got this pretty early on in our 25 through 72 run. It might have been my first trade, actually, and it's pretty big. There are certain times early on, these hard-hitting mobs you'll pull, and they have a damage, a speed increase on the cast they cast. Like the fireball some of these casters throw at you here. Having this DR can help you survive that. It'll get you through so many spots early on that you otherwise would have no reason, no possible way to survive at level 25 with 0 anima traits. I guess technically 1 with this. It is exceptionally powerful. Even on bosses, having to kite bosses, having to kite mobs, this is so relevant. This trait is so powerful in certain subtle little ways that it works with Demonology and your pets as a whole. This trait is very strong. I do think that Blizzard's probably going to end up reeling in the first few traits you can pick from here, because getting a trait like this compared to a trait that increases the duration of fear by 3 seconds, there's a bit of a power level difference there, just a tiny bit. But this is one of the powerful traits I like to see early on, because it's, even though it's not a DPS increase, surviving these first few levels before the traits start rolling in and things start snowballing is pretty important. I do think that it's probably maybe even in the next alpha build for the next set of classes they test in Torghast, mobs probably will have a bit more health. They might not hit as hard, and some of these abilities might end up being removed from the initial anima trait you can choose, because some are just really OP, like Zolval's Resolution. Okay, now I did hands down save our most powerful trait for last here, and I'm not kidding in the slightest. This trait might be gray, but choking chains with the 6-second change to pet summons and cast time is without a doubt 100% our most effective, most powerful trait that we can get. Whether it's early on, 20 levels in general. This trait is so exceptionally strong, it's not even funny. The 6-second change to pet summons is really frustrating. It makes it so that if your pet dies in combat, you pretty much can't get another one out unless you can CC all the mobs that are attacking you. This completely changes that. In that 25 to 72 run I did on stream as Demonology, I probably summoned my pet over 200 times in the first 30 levels. The last like 20 or so, you have so much health. My pet had like 800k health on him, my Felguard. He doesn't really die. Early on, in these levels here, trying to get these elite mobs or these elite packs, there are so many times your pet will die and you just can't do anything. You can fear a mob or stun a mob, but if you have 3 or 4 mobs beating on you that hit for 30% of your health, you're just dead. That is completely irrelevant with this trait. It is so absurdly good. If your Felguard dies and you have 2 mobs beating on you, instantly summon your Voidwalker. AoE taunt. It'll taunt everything off you. You can fear a mob. You can then health funnel back into your Voidwalker to heal it, to buy some more time. You can kill the mob that your Voidwalker's on while fearing the other, buying you more time. Hold the fear in the other mob, heal back up. It's so incredibly good, it's not even funny. There are plenty of times I pulled my Voidwalker out as Demonology just because I needed that instant taunt. Mini bosses, it doesn't make a difference. It's just good across the board. I'm pretty sure this trait will probably be upped from being a grade trait to an epic level trait. It's very, very good. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that, like I mentioned, there are 3 levels currently to Torghast on Alpha. It's 1 through 12, 13 to 24, and 25 to 72. Now, this trait is very strong at every level. It doesn't matter. It's the strongest when you hit 25 and walk in with 0 anima powers, because we're scaled to item level 170. We're scaled to 60, but some of these mobs, we shouldn't be starting at level 25 at 170 eye level with the 0 anima traits. When Torghast goes live, you'll be able to work your way up from 1 to 25 and keep going infinitely. So it, in a sense, is a bit more relevant right now, stepping into 25. Very undergeared, not prepared, 0 anima traits. But your pet's going to die regardless. We know that in early expansions, you're not extremely geared, which means your pet dies pretty quickly. This trait is so absurdly powerful, it's not even funny. This is hands down across the board, without a doubt in my mind, the best trait we have in the first testing of Torghast. You do want those damage amp traits. You do want 2 tyrants, 3 tyrants, a bonus to your demon's damage, an increase to their duration. There's a threshold you want to hit, right? Because you need to have the damage to kill the mobs, to kill the bosses. The first boss you hit at level, I believe, 30, 31, right around there, is the hardest one to kill, because that's before effects start snowballing. But having this effect, even though it's not a damage amp, when your pet dies, having the ability to go Voidwalker, summon, taunt, give you that 5, 6, 7, 8, even 10 seconds of reprieve to set up, to heal back up, then you fear the mob. It gives you so much more leeway, so much more play. This trait is hands down the best trait we have. It's not even close. I would take this trait right now, starting at 25, every single time if I could, over any other trait possible. Even 2 tyrants, even double duration. It's that good. Now, I have to say, I have played all 3 specs: Affliction, Demonology, and Destruction. We full cleared as Demonology. We've gotten to like level 33, 34 as Destro. We weren't really trying to full clear. We were more so trying to feel things out. And we played as Affliction. I can say, hands down, Affliction feels the worst in Torghast. Malefic Rapture has changed things for Affliction. It does feel better. It does give you that AoE damage profile. But there's still a lot of ramp-up time associated with Affliction, even with Rapture being a thing. You just don't have that burst damage profile. You just can't go into a pack and go hand-hand Tyrant. You just can't go Cataclysm, Infernal, Immolation, or a Havoc, burn everything down. You have to pre-cast your Seed of Corruption, get your Agonies rolling, get your Vile Taint out. If you want to cast your Haunt and UA on a priority mob, do it. If you're going to Dark Lair, finally Dark Lair. You work a Dark Soul in there somewhere, and then you spam your Raptures. You can even see in this poll that I'm probably going to do right here. It just takes a while to set up. Destro drops a Cataclysm, drops an Infernal. There you go. Demonology, hand, Tyrant, Demonic Strength. And when you get higher and higher into the tower, you don't have the time to set up Affliction. You just don't have it. Mobs hit hard. Your pet dies. You have probably 5-6 seconds before your pet dies. And yes, tuning is way off here, but even if tuning is on point, you still want that burst damage. You still want to kill packs faster and faster. Packs dying faster means a faster clear, less mechanics, less damage taken. It's just, Affliction feels the same way that it has for a while. Rapture does help shore up a lot of AoE pulls. You can see these die pretty quickly here, but it still is lacking in the damage department compared to Destro or Demo. Let's not even mention that AF has a 3-minute damage profile in Dark Lair. Dark Lair is hands down the weakest CD we have in Torghast. Like, you have to set up all your dots on one target. Yes, you can have multiple dots rolling on multiple targets, but keep in mind, Unstable Affliction can only be applied to one target. There's only one iteration of Unstable Affliction allowed to be rolling at all times. Whether you have a pool of 1 or a pool of 8,000 mobs, you can only have one UA rolling at a time. It just makes things feel really slow and clunky compared to Destro or Demo. Like I said, Destro and AF both have that 3-minute profile again. Long gone are the days, well, I guess gone for me at this point, maybe not long, but are the days with 2-minute Infernals and 2-minute Dark Lairs if you're playing a weird, Dreadful Calling VOP kind of build. But Destro still does have that burst damage profile. I will say I thought about playing Channel Demon Fire a bit here just because of there being so many AoE pulls or small mobs you can kill quickly with it. But your Infernal bringing that Immolation Aura value is really strong. When you actually have the trait that gives you multiple Infernals, multiple Tyrants, multiple Dark Lairs, having multiple Immolation Auras rolling is pretty big. Having multiple Dark Lairs summoned is not that relevant. Dark Lair is just not that relevant of a CD in general when it comes to AoE, and with the changes to Unstable Affliction, it just feels pretty bad in Torghast. Affliction just where it feels bad in Torghast. It's the most lacking. Destro has that 3-minute damage profile, but it's a big one, and it lasts half a minute. A whole minute if you have the Soul Platter extension. So Destro does feel fine in Torghast. It's nowhere near as clunky as slow as Affliction, so obviously we can rank it, Affliction being the worst, Destro being second best, but there is a pretty big difference in my eyes between Destruction and Demonology. The thing is, even removing a 25% bonus pet damage it stacks, or the multiple tyrants, or the 100% increased duration to your tyrants, Demonology, in similar fashion to how it is on live and how I probably see things going in Shadowlands, brings a damage profile that's in a sense about twice as effective as Destruction in a lot of scenarios, and certainly more effective as Affliction than Affliction. Having that 1.5 minute Tyrant compared to that 3-minute Infernal, even though your Infernal brings a lot of Immolation Aura value and things, is really big. The bonus damage you get to all your pets, your Demonic Strength, everything, how it affects how the spec plays, even without Baleful Invocation or Explosive Potential, just feels really good, really impactful. There's a lot of times in Torghast where I've had to wait to pull one pack and the pack behind it for CDs. Having to wait 3 minutes for your Infernal or your Dark Lair feels pretty bad, and that's not even including the 10 seconds of ramp up I have with my Dark Lair. It doesn't feel good. Demonology doesn't have that issue. The Hand of Gul'dan splash damage, the Implosion damage, the Demonic Strength cleave, the Fellstorm cleave, just the damage amps that you get to your pets, and having that be so much more impactful for Demonology because you have imps, you have Dreadstalkers, you have your Felguard, you have your Tyrant. It's just big. The toolkit that Warlocks have in Torghast right now favors Demonology a lot more, I feel personally, and I don't think it's very close. I don't think Affliction's bad enough where you can't play it. I think Destruction's fine. It's in the mid. It's mid tier. Demonology is the best, followed by Destruction, and then Affliction is playable, but not really where I want to be looking at running Torghast in its current form. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video gave y'all a better understanding and look at how Warlocks are currently in Torghast. In the end, I don't think any of the Warlock specs are in such a bad state they're unplayable in Torghast. It's just that Demonology's toolkit, like Live and all of BFA, is so much more favorable when it comes to a Torghast-like scenario, a Mythic Plus scenario. And having that 3-minute Infernal, that 3-minute Dark Lair versus a 1.5-minute Tyrant is just so big, and that's excluding all the damage amps affecting pets more than, you know, not for Destro and Aff. Any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Once again, I do stream on Twitch 5 to 6 days a week. I'll be streaming all of Alpha, Beta, into Shadowlands launch. Plenty of things going on. So if you want to swing by, all my weekly wars, profiles, add-ons are there, available for you for free as well. Feel free to swing by, drop a follow if you want, hang on a stream, and enjoy some Shadowlands Alpha. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see y'all again soon on stream. Peace.